profiled independently to make Nigeria a better country for the last 30 years. Nigeria has only been around for 58 years. I started in 1989. In 2019, I've been engaged fighting to expand our democratic space. I've been fighting against corruption so that we can end poverty. I'm fighting against ignorance so that we can give our children education. I'm fighting against men and women in this country who are stealing so that there can be enough for people who are hungry to eat. I am telling you that I have history. I'm unique in that way. There's no candidate, even some of the older candidates, some of them who call themselves retired army generals, retired custom officers, who can say that they have independently served this country the way I have in the last 30 years. And that is why I'm unique, and is the reason why I can stand in front of anybody and say that this country will be better off in our hands instead of the hands of the buccaneers that put the country in the condition that it is today.
Okay, so your activism from your student days to date, as far as you're concerned, is your unique selling point. Before we sort of focus and have a conversation about that work that you've done, what qualifies your running mate to become the vice president of Nigeria?
Okay,
could you speak
Brothers
up?
and sisters, comrades, friends, wherever you are, very good evening to you. Good evening for hosting us. You've asked a very important question, but when you read my CV, I couldn't even recognize myself. I'm here not Aspire Party or Aspire Tire to the, party, African Action Congress. Sowore has actually done well in moving the Take It Back movement, which transformed to a political party. We are now contesting for these posts. You realize that there is no better story to tell than to tell our own stories for Nigerians to vote for us, which is the real story. We represent the largest constituency in this country. This is the 7th geopolitical zone, you could call it, but it's a social, actually,
so you're talking
cycle.
about age here, in terms
it's not about age. It's
okay.
what the Nigerians, are suffering from for all these years. We are a generation that our leaders have let down seriously. No opportunities for school, for hospitals, for roads and other infrastructure. And you realize, actually, when you want to study or you want to help slaves, you don't ask the slave masters or the slave ship captain. You ask the slaves themselves. And that's why we are here to salvage Nigeria and our teeming population that are yearning for good governance and good leadership in this country. You have seen it all over, you understand. Our party came with the best of the manifestos, that is the spice ahead, because at the moment you realize that Nigeria is tasteless. If it is full, you can't take it, because there's nothing there actually for us to be proud of, having been let down.
That's you talked about your manifesto, and now we'll get a chance to sort of go through the details of what you're trying to do. But I want to come back to Mr. Sowore and specifically focus on the activism. The activism, we know you were in university, spent 6 years, fought a military junta. There seems to be a little bit of a gap in terms of your public history. And so I'd like to be able to fill that gap for Nigerians. You were at university, you graduated. Not much is known between that period of graduation and you setting up Sahara Reporters. What did you do?
So I entered university in 1989. I graduated around 1995, eventually, after I was brutally attacked at the University of Lagos and injected with an unknown chemical substance. I then was delayed. After I graduated, they seized my result for months. And I was mobilized to go to NYC, and I did my NYC in Yola, Adamawa State, between 1995 and 1996. And after that, I was arrested and detained by the military junta under Abuja on the day of my passing out parade. And I spent a week until a newspaper reporter at the Punch, Northern Edition, I think Stanley Yakubu, wrote a story and I was released. Because they put me in a guard room in a Nigerian Air Force detention center, chained to the ground. And then after that, I left Yola, went back to my activism. By 1998, I led one of the most popular struggles after I left university called, disrupting the Noga Games on behalf of students who were expelled by the military at that time. And after that, I became a little sick and traveled to the US in 1999, before the elections happened in 1999. And I've been in the US since 1999. and now. It will be 20 years since then that I've been away.
So I mean, people talk about you coming, you know, from a sort of, I've heard talk about you being a poor fisherman boy, and now there is some allegations, or there are talks that you're worth something like $10 million. Your net worth is $10 million. And I'm trying to close that gap to try and understand, how do you go from sort of being locked up, running into exile, and sort of 10 years later you founded a media website and you're worth $10 million? Because, you know, Nigerians have issues with leaders who talk about integrity but don't have it. And so it's good to establish these things.
Well, thank you. It's true that I grew up poor. I was fishing for my entire family at 9 years old before I could go to school. And then by the time I left the University of Lagos in 1995, I had a pair of pants, you know, and shirts.
One.
Yes, one, and 2 shirts, and a pair of shoes. When I went to the US, I went there with nothing. In fact, I forgot to get a winter coat, and I arrived in February. That's a story for another day. But the financial words you hear about me online is exactly what Google does to rank Sahara reporters. You know, they look at Sahara
So it's not your personal wealth.
No, as of today, I don't have a dime in my account, except contributions from people who are supporting this campaign, because I had to leave Sahara reporters and I cannot be paying myself while I'm doing this. So I don't have that worth. But Sahara reporters is probably worth more. Let me say this to you.
No,
when you are innovative.
Let me explain why that is important, because as I understand it, you hold an American passport.
I don't hold an American passport.
Okay.
No. I have never changed my citizenship since I left this country.
Okay, so
I have a Nigerian passport and I have a green card, which is a permanent residency of the US.
Because
I never changed my nationality.
Part of the concern that have been expressed to me in sort of researching this particular program is the idea that there might be some sort of foreign influence behind you because of your ability to raise money for Sahara from foundations and all of that.
No. When we walked in here, you introduced yourself. You said this is funded by MacArthur Foundation. You know, so I have also been funded. Sahara Reporters has also been funded by MacArthur Foundation before. It doesn't mean that someone has a foreign influence. You know, people have foreign influence. There are people who have to pay 1.1 million naira to get a US visa just to visit for 2 days. Those are people with foreign influence. You know, people with foreign influence, people who are helping Morocco to join the West African ECOWAS simply because they want to get money on the side to run for election. Those are people with foreign influence, not sure.
What would you say about that issue of needing someone who will heal and who will carry people along, given how combative and controversial you've been?
That's incorrect. We are the only 2 candidates in this race who have been to 33 states across Nigeria in the last 9 months. We've been to places as remote as Kebbi, Zamfara. I've been to Sokoto. I've been to Rivers State. I've been to Bayelsa State. We've been in states like Akwa Ibom. We've been in some states that most Nigerians have never been to before, and we've been received. We were in Taraba last week. We were in Adamawa last week. And in all of these places, we get acceptance. We get great reception, and people are saying, look, this is our brother. We are the greatest bridge builders you can find in this country today. I have never met Dr. Rufai before, but when we met, it as if we were brothers, and we were wondering, what is it that's been dividing this country for so long? if people can get together.
Hang on a
So
minute.
when you talk about...
No, quick question.
Yes.
You picked a running mate
Yes,
for your party
yes.
that you didn't really know very well.
No, no. When you say not knowing very well,
That's what you just
is
said.
that, no, there's no conditionality that I must have met him before for him to be the running mate. There's a running mate to the party and the candidates. You know, the condition for being a running mate is that he's qualified, you know, party conditions set to choose a running mate for the party, and that he's a Nigerian and he's a man of good conscience and he believes in our party. You don't have to know him, you know.
No, you need to understand the question I'm asking. The assumption is when you choose someone to take a responsibility as huge as being the second in command for a country as complicated, like I said, with sensitive issues like Nigeria, the assumption is that you're 100% sure of the character of the person that you're standing next to, of the person that you're endorsing. What you seem to be telling me is that you met Dr. Rufai, you barely knew him, but somehow you were convinced and you decided he's going to be your running mate.
Again,
it talks about a certain
I have said it
impulse.
Again. No, I have said it again, and I'll repeat here so that this is correct, that I met him not too long ago, but it is not about me. It's about the party. It's about Nigeria. You know, I had friends who are in the northern part of the country and the eastern part of the world, and other parts of the world. You are my friend. I didn't meet you until recently. You know, maybe 2 years ago, but I've been friends with you for years. Also, technology has solved a lot of problems as to how people interact, how they engage, and how they become friends. And this man is supremely qualified to be the Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria starting from June 12th, you know, based on his background, his pedigree, his qualification, and his character. And we can testify to it. And you and I know each other. We also do investigative reporting. We investigate people's background before we interact with them. And this man has, you know, been able to meet all the checklists on the boxes that will qualify him to be Vice President. And I'm happy to present him to you and the people of Nigeria.
Excellent. Now, before we dive into the issues of your manifesto, I'd like to take a few questions from the audience. Yes, gentlemen. Yeah, the gentleman with the glasses, and then the man with the cap. We'll take two and come back to the candidates. Sir, you need to come to the microphone, please, and do introduce yourself.
Thank you. My name is BC Alagbe. I'm an entrepreneur.
Sir, you need to please speak up. The mic is a bit low. Yes?
My name is BC Alagbe. I'm an entrepreneur and an investor. A patriotic Nigerian, I would like to think. Mr. Sowore, according to the World Bank and the United Nations, Nigeria's annual population growth rate as of 2017 was 2.6% population growth rate. Incidentally, our population is also 2.6% of the world population. But our GDP annual growth rate is only 0.8%. This trend indicates that our population is growing at a faster pace than our wealth as a nation. As far as I'm concerned, if my neighbor is richer, I'm richer. My neighbor is poor, I don't care how much money is in my bank account, I am poorer. You understand that in the economies of nations. Now, my question to you, sir, is what do you have in mind as a plan to mitigate this trend and make Nigeria a wealthy nation?
Okay. Thank you, sir.
That's the first question. I have two.
Sir, there are a lot of people who want to ask questions, so let's limit you to one, please, just to make sure everybody gets a chance.
With all due respect, no problem.
Please. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Good evening, all. My name is Abubakar Musa. I'm a pharmacist by training and a supply chain management specialist, and also a very patriotic Nigerian who wants to see.
You need to move close to the mic so people can hear you.
Who is yearning to see a better Nigeria. I'm directing my question to your VP, who happens to be from the corner, because this is a northern problem. Your program last week, somebody raised the question, but I don't think the president or the vice president did justice to it, which is the issue of the Al-Majri carnage or pandemic, because it's a serious problem, not just health-wise, but security-wise. In the last administration, I'm sure probably maybe his cabinet from the north, because it's only you have to be a northerner or a Muslim to actually appreciate the problems that has to do with the Al-Majri.
So your question is, what is the solution to the
what is the solution? What plans do they actually have to abolish the system completely and not handle it with kid gloves or any sense of sensitivity?
Thank you very much. So the first question is about creating wealth,
yes,
so that our population, one is Al-Majri, maybe start with you. Okay, I have to take a quick break, and then when we come back, we'll start with the answers to those questions. Don't go away. I did at the beginning. Yeah, I think we've passed. Yeah, it's gone. Yeah, yeah.
No sound? What about NT? You said there's no streaming?
There is streaming. Oh, can you hear me? There's a problem with streaming. Can you find out what's going on with Yeah, but then what about the NTA being streaming? Then the NTA one should be functional. At least the two, one of them should be working. Please let me know what's going on. Thank you. Welcome back. You are watching The Candidates, a presidential town hall series brought to you by Daria Media and the Nigeria Television Authority with the support of the MacArthur Foundation. We are in conversation with the presidential and vice presidential candidates of the Africa Action Congress, Mr. Omoyele Sowore and Dr. Rufai. Now, a quick reminder that those at home can actually take part by sending questions using the social media handles that are scrolling across the street. Those in the diaspora were told there are slight problems with the streaming, but we are doing our best to fix it as quickly as possible. Now, before we went on break, there were two questions. One was on growing wealth, and I think the second question was around the Almajiri. So maybe if we could start with the one about growing this country's productivity and wealth. Yes.
Thank you. Welcome back. We've just been told that people can't hear us, so we hope this technical glitch will be fixed so that we can interact with
I've just been told it has been fixed.
Yes.
Yes.
So with regards to population, we've passed that period in the history of mankind that population can become a liability. Some of the fastest growing nations in the world today, China and India, are relying on their population to become wealthy. But without investment in our population, we can't be wealthy, even if we are 5 people in Nigeria. The truth is that we are not investing in the areas that can make our population become productive in a way that we can turn them to the new resource that can make Nigeria become a prosperous nation. We are not investing in education, we are not investing in health, we are not investing in technology, and certainly we are not investing in infrastructure and human security. And it is this investment, I wish that this question came after we have spoken about our own Spicer hit that the VP was talking about, that is talking about 10 areas of intervention in Nigeria's institutional life under our government, in which that human resource of Nigeria, because oil is lazy the economy, ladies and gentlemen, oil is not the future. And definitely it is not the way we are doing things now that is the future. It's our people, the Nigerian people, who are out there, who will make Nigeria. Infrastructure in Nigeria. We plan to increase Nigeria electricity generation by 17,000 megawatts.
So let's talk about the money that is going to pay for this very ambitious plan.
Yes.
How much do you reckon you will need? What sort of budget are you looking at to be able to hire 200,000 teachers immediately, 160,000 health workers, to boost power from, did you say, to 17,000
megawatts?
Megawatts.
Yes.
And all of the other things that you've listed in your agenda. I want numbers.
Yes.
And how you intend to raise the money.
So with regards to power,
yes,
to get us from the miserable 7,000 megawatts to 24,000, adding 17,000 megawatts, we are expected to invest about $10 billion.
Where are you getting that money from?
Will come from investors who are interested in making their money the same way we had investors come in with telecommunication companies, and in 1 year, MTN took out $13 billion out of this country from profit. Dollars. Almost make back their profits.
Mr. Sowore,
yes,
let me tell you that politicians generally say, and I'm trying to get into details with you.
You asked me to be specific,
yes, and so,
I'm being specific.
The point I'm making is, under this administration,
yes,
for example,
yes,
and the previous administration,
yes,
power was privatized. all apart from the transmission network. Hang on. Distribution as well as generation.
Yes.
And we had private sector people coming.
Yes.
And so I'm trying to understand, how does your plan differ from what we have currently? And I'd also like Dr. Rufai at some point to jump in, because under the Constitution, as VP, he's also head of the Economic Council.
Yes.
So I'd like to get a sense as well from him.
I want to correct the impression that power was privatized. Power wasn't privatized. They wanted to deregulate and privatize the power sector. They did the privatization, they didn't do the deregulation. Build their own generating stations so that we can have power. They didn't have one. We sold what belonged to Nigeria at under the market price to the same people, who then turned around, got subventions from our government, and that was how the PDP spent $16 billion generating darkness in this country. This government has continued the same thing. So when you claim that you want to deregulate and you don't deregulate so that there's no competition, and you say you are privatizing and you are giving to your friends, you are not going to have power.
You come in today.
Yes.
What are you going to do?
I have said it, and I'm repeating here again, that we come in today, we are hooking up solar panels for 4,000. We are creating, solar farms that will generate 4,500 megawatts of power. We are going to do 90 kilowatts per university, right? And we are going to do solar farms across the country for 500 megawatts each. It takes less than, please, if you listen to me, I'll deliver this to you so that Nigerians can hear it. It takes less than a year. It took Egypt less than 2.5 years to do 14,000 megawatts at 500,000 naira per megawatts of power. It's the cheapest in the world. Here we can even do it cheaper because we have plenty of cheap labor to do it. I'm not saying we are going to abuse labor here. And it's the same Siemens who came to Nigeria trying to do the same thing, and people were asking them for bribes, that went to Rascom, a state-owned power company in Egypt, to deliver the same. This is public information. You need leadership here. We don't have it.
I'm trying to understand.
That's the problem. You need innovation. We don't have it.
Because we do have a Power Act. I'm sure you know.
That what?
We have a policy and a law that has deregulated the sector.
Well, I'm telling you that there's no deregulation.
I'm trying to understand from the point of view of someone who becomes president, because you will have to work within the law, and I'm assuming that's it. So I'm trying to get a sense of, so for example, if you say you're going to build solar power plants, are these solar power plants going to be owned by government? Who's going to give you the money for that? Those are the kind of questions I'm looking for answers for.
And I have answered it partially, that it happened in Egypt, it happened in Morocco, and there are people who are looking for places where they can build power stations, make their money, and let people enjoy power.
So you're just going to open up the market, basically.
Of course, that is what deregulation was supposed to be in the first place, is to give license to people who will come and generate power, not to sell what belongs to the Nigerian people to friends or politicians, and then give them subventions. And now, when there's even 3,000 extra to be evacuated, they don't do it because it doesn't bring profit to them. It is a cannibalistic system of power generation that is killing us. And people who are in the power business can testify to this. I'm telling you that we need leaders who are courageous enough to face these people who are making it impossible for Nigeria to make progress. It's not an argument between you and I, it's an argument about the future of our people.
Dr. Rufai?
Yeah, thank you very much. I would like to make some of the points he made even clearer and louder, and then also dwell on the question on Al-Majri system. You will recall in 2011, there was a Fukushima nuclear disaster in Japan. It's an energy-driven country. They almost went flat because of what happened. What happened? They invited a German and British company to go, and they fixed it within 1 year. So it's doable. Nigeria can generate 12,000 megawatt in a year if the right incentive is given, the right sense, actually, and the courage and the sincerity from the side of government. And I don't like this pessimism that we really have to get stuck in this conundrum for any longer. believe you me, when Siemens came to Nigeria, went in to sign PPP, that's public-private partnership to create the solar, Nigeria turned them down because of graft. People were asking for bribe, and that's the norm in this country. They had to go to Egypt, and then they got 14.5 thousand megawatt in a matter of 2 years, and at a cost of $7.5 billion only. So unless when is not really serious, but we are a serious party, we are courageous, we are determined actually to change the status quo. Now, you realize that economy is not leaves from tree that we could pluck. We really do to do the work. We are going to leverage on the modern day thing, which is ICT, to improve our economic output and production. You realize that California now is one of the richest part of America and richest part of the world because of the IT giants that are there, Google, eBay, Amazon, and so on. Nigeria also has to catch up with these, actually, because gone are the days, and that's why our party came up with this vision for Nigeria that to really be internet-oriented. And sometimes they call this chap Homo interneticus, that he's no longer a Homo sapien, because we are really interested to bring apps, to bring coders into Nigeria, to develop our people. In healthcare, it's now the in thing. People create clinical decision support system, apps that help our diagnosis to go better.
Okay, let me go straight into your manifesto, because I think, you know, the details that I'm looking for, I can find in there, and then maybe we can have that conversation. You said you need an annual budget of about $500 billion based on your manifesto to actualize your plans, which include recruitment of teachers, health workers, etc., etc. This is as opposed to the current Nigerian budget, which is between $35 to $40 billion. And I'm just trying to understand how your economic plan is planning to increase this budget tenfold, almost over just a 4-year period. What are the funding sources, for example, outside PPP and all of that? What exactly, how are you going to find $500 billion in a country that we know is suffering from a lack of, if you like, productivity?
No. So just so that we correct it, we have a number of projects that we would implement over 4 years. And we're looking at how much it will cost.
Okay, so it's not a budget.
It's not a budget.
The cost of
the annual budget of Nigeria is around, it's been consistently about $35 billion per year. Nigeria's GDP is around 500 billion naira per year. So what we are saying is that there are a lot of opportunities for us to increase our revenue, and we'll do so by, you know, of course, ensuring that all the leakages that are there with corruption and waste and mismanagement, we get rid of that. That can save us $5 billion. Just let me finish there. And when we go next from there is how we can actually increase the collection of our taxes. The collection rate of our taxes is the lowest even in the African sub-region. And right now we're at about 7%. Ghana, our neighbor, here is about 15%. What it means is that we can increase from what it is now, which is about 6 trillion naira, to about, you know, 10 to 15 trillion naira when we are effectively collecting taxes. We are not increasing taxes. We are just collecting company income taxes. We are ensuring that all of the tax categories are adequately and efficiently collected.
Okay, so how will you give tax breaks to stimulate growth for small and medium businesses if what you're talking about is increased taxation? I mean, increasingly, you are seeing, let me finish.
We say collection rate of taxes.
When we talk to a lot of the people who support you, they see you as the candidate of the common man, of the citizen, who's been disadvantaged over the years.
That's right.
And yet here you are, talking about increasing taxes.
No, that's not correct.
Yes.
No, I did not say we'll increase
taxes.
Okay,
I misspoke. Not increase, collecting more taxes.
No, well, yes, collecting more taxes from people who otherwise, let me explain to you very quickly what I mean by that.
Okay.
There are a lot of companies out there today who are deducting taxes from their workers and pocketing it without paying to the federal government. That is what I'm saying. As a reporter, I did an investigation recently and found out that most of the companies that are in Nigeria, including the big companies, breweries in particular, Some of them are supposed to be paying 5 billion in company income taxes. They are only paying 800 million because they have friends in those sectors that can help them hide the books. Why do you think Lagos is doing well? It's because they decided that it is time to be collecting taxes. What they do with the taxes and who it goes to, you know, as per the party big men, is a different issue. But at least they are collecting the taxes, and if they were to be spending their taxes on the citizens, Lagos will probably be El Dorado by now.
So it looks like
there's
you're
no increase
borrowing
in taxes.
some of your plans seem to be very similar to what the APC is currently doing. They've increased tax collection.
I rebuke that.
Mr. Tunde Fowler, for example, the man in charge of the Federal Inland Revenue, has spent the last 2-3 years doing exactly what you've said should be done, which is getting people who normally don't pay taxes to pay, persuading those that have taken wealth abroad to start paying taxes on their assets, etc., etc. And so, again, the issue is trying to get clarity regarding why your drive is different from what they are currently doing, which has actually seen an increase in collection of taxes. And Lagos, that you give an example of, obviously is an APC state, and everybody's taking a cue from them when it comes to taxes.
Well, this is exactly what I'm saying here, is that our own plan is different from theirs, because their own plan is tax collection that is funding special interests. Our own is tax collection that is funding the people. That's exactly the difference. You know? So I don't want to mention Tunde Fowler's name. I don't know him well enough to know how much taxes he's collecting. But if the APC is the party that we know very well, they are probably not collecting taxes from people who are in the APC. They are going after people who are owing taxes who are in other political parties. That is the trait of the APC. That's why I say I remove
this is not a debate. They're not here to defend themselves.
Yes.
So let's focus on your
Well,
program.
they're watching us, trust me. And their ministers were here with you last week. So we watched them last week. We hop they are watching us this time around.
Let me quickly ask Dr. Rufai a question that has come from someone and is related to what we're talking about. Amamata Suleiman writes and says, how do you plan to sustain the salary package of 100,000 of minimum wage that you have promised?
Yes.
Amamata Suleiman. Maybe Dr. Rufai
excellent.
can answer that question.
I like the question, and this is not going to be anything near or close to what APC, you know, does or is doing. Yesterday they passed through the Council of State 30,000 as a minimum wage.
27,000.
What we have, 27,000. What we have is actually not a minimum wage, but a living wage. That's why we put it to 100,000. And you realize, if you can help me do the math, an average worker is likely to spend at least 1,000 naira for feeding on daily basis, and then to transport himself to work, and then to have some savings for healthcare, and then utility bills. Now, food, if it's 1,000, and then you multiply it by 30 days.
So by your calculation, this is what is required, is what you're saying. By your calculation, this is what a worker requires.
And that's what we aim to achieve, actually, because it has a kind of positive feedback mechanism, a multiplier effect. When you improve the wages, that in itself can control some level of corruption, because you now disincentivize people to be tempted to be corrupted by people or vested interest. At the same time, this is the money they can actually use in sending their kids to school so that we can have a better Nigeria. These are the monies they can use to access healthcare services, health as well. The healthier they are, the better they will be productive economically. And if you now put this together, you realize it is really important that we keenly look at this. Other countries that were almost at the same level with the middle income or lower income countries actually are giving their workers higher wages than Nigeria. South Africa, for instance, is 136,000 naira compared to Nigeria. So even the 100,000, we said, is for the beginning of our term.
Okay, let me ask you if you've done the math in terms of how much of an increase that is.
Absolutely.
It's a percentage increase of 456, which means you're going to see the federal government wage bill basically increase by almost 2 trillion a year. And that means we're looking at an increase that will take the yearly wage bill to about 9.1 trillion. That is the math.
No.
If we go with what you're saying, based on what the federal government pays currently.
That's actually not correct.
It is correct.
Okay.
Please do the numbers.
No. Well, we've done our math. That's what I'm saying.
Yes. That is correct.
Yes. Well,
From 18,000 to 100,000 is an increase that will mean you will be paying an extra 7 trillion annually.
well,
on
I wanted to jump into that so that we can get this accurately to Nigerian people, right? There are about 890,000 federal workers. That number, due to corruption, is bloated to about 1.5 million workers at the federal level. We are going to leverage on technology to get rid of the 500,000 ghost workers. I'm telling you that, that's the truth. Okay. And what it means is that when you are coming to work, it's either your fingerprint or your retina scan that admits you into the office.
Mr. Sowore, when you throw a figure out like that, you need to be able to tell Nigerians how you arrived at the fact that you're sure Nigeria has 500,000 ghost workers.
Yes, no. We have been talking to labor unions who know of this scam. Even the Nigerian police, I think last year, found about 80,000 people who are ghost workers in their system. The former Minister of Finance found out there are 10,000 workers on the payroll of the federal government in the railway sector.
No, I'm not arguing that we have ghost workers. I'm not arguing.
We are doing mathematics now.
Different governments.
But I want to...
Hang on. Different governments at different times have come in and have sort of exposed the fact that they found ghost workers, including the current government and the one before it. What I'm asking is that you seem very clear and very emphatic about the numbers. You said you believe there are 500,000 ghost workers on the federal wage bill, payroll. And I'm asking, what is the basis for arriving at this number?
It's completely, that's what I'm just telling you, that we've been investigating and we'll be giving you direct information that are even coming from government officials themselves. But to how much it will cost, because the increase that will happen is going to be for about 70% of the federal workers on federal payroll, minus the ghost workers, okay? Which that's the first thing we do. We're going to purge them with technology. If you don't have your fingerprint recognition, you can't get into a federal office under our government. If you cannot do retina scan, you can't get into office. And when you are leaving, we'll be able to tell if you came to work and when you left work, because your eyes will reveal that or your finger will reveal that. It's already happening here. There's no reason why we are not doing what other smaller countries are doing. But coming to the cost now, we are looking at about 1.5 trillion naira. That's what is going to be added to the federal wage bill.
These are your numbers.
Yes,
okay. We have 7 million, but you're saying based on the ghost workers.
Yes. Okay. That's because we are dealing first and foremost with federal workers. And what we have discovered is that if Nigeria is losing, that's the most equivalent of about $1.something billion. If Nigeria is losing so much money, right, to corruption, and we plug it, we get rid of ghost workers, there will be enough money to pay workers at 100,000 naira, per head. But let me tell you something about even the current increase that they've just done yesterday, which is 30,000 naira. Do you know how much the federal government said they are adding to the federal wage bill? About 24 billion. That is the cost, according to their own records from the budget office, in which I read a few days ago. So it's not a lot of money. 24 billion naira is less than what the APC will use for their rallies in a few states. But we don't want to pay workers because we don't care about workers.
Okay, this is federal. So the chances are, if that happens at the federal level, we know from experience that before you know it, the workers in the states also start to agitate for an increase. And some states are not even economically viable. And so what is your view, and what are you going to do regarding the states? Have you thought about that?
So whatever it is we increase at the federal level in terms of improvement in taxes, revenue collection, stopping wastage, corruption, and mismanagement, is going to go into a pool, a federal pool that will be shared to the state. So the more money we make at the federal level, the more money the states get. The reason why states are not paying workers is not because they don't have money. In most cases, is because we have irresponsible state governors. And I hope the states will vote them out in this election. Even President Buhari said it, that they gave Paris Club.
And I'm again listening to you, and again you're sounding like other governments that have been here.
No, let
me finish. This issue
it sounds like you don't want to give me the opportunity.
Let me ask the question, then you will answer. Let me ask
empirically
the question.
how we're solving this problem.
I will ask the question, and then you can answer.
Yes.
I say this because here we are with someone who's talked about restructuring.
Yes.
And then we're talking about taking money from the center and sharing to states again. At a time when Nigerians are saying we need to look at how to make states viable so that they can stand on their own. But your solution in terms of wages for workers is that the center will save money and distribute it. It sounds very familiar.
It is not familiar because even when you restructure Nigeria, you are not going to leave the states at the behest of the restructuring without catering for them. There's still a lot of constitutional provisions that have to be made on how states can stand on their own. Look, people who are shouting restructuring are not taking into consideration some of these things. And that's where we are different. That's why we are not just jumping into the restructuring argument. And the people who are talking about restructuring are not interested in restructuring. They have a party candidate and the party they want to support to come back to power. That is what restructuring means. And now that they have found their candidate, are you hearing about restructuring anymore? But here is what I want to tell you about how we need to make states to be productive. There's a state called Kebbi State, right? And they are growing rice. They said, and I cannot confirm this, so that when you are fact-checking me, that they made 150 billion naira. There is no state in Nigeria that can make up to 4 billion naira from the federal level, even on a monthly basis. But the truth is that a state that became creative and innovative growing rice is making enough money to take care of its people.
Under a program pushed by the government,
by the federal government.
You want to replace.
That's what you're saying. When you're saying that.
So they're doing well. Are you giving them a pass mark?
They're doing well because there's a government at the center that cares, but the state is also using its own innovation to make its own money. We've mentioned Lagos before, even though they are doing wuru-wuru with whatever they are making.
Did I just hear you endorse an APC government?
No. There's no APC government anywhere. We are talking about things that are working with Nigerian people's money. The money at the central bank is not APC's money. It's the money of the Nigerian people. So if we are using it and directing it to the farmers in Kebbi State, they don't carry APC party cards. They are innovative, hard-working Nigerians who have always been rice farmers, who have been abandoned, but when they got the necessary boost, they are working to do what they need to do. So don't make it sound like it's an APC idea. We are talking about how it is not. In fact, if you look at the APC manifesto, you can't find growing of rice there. It's true. And there's nothing in their manifesto that says we grow rice. They are just doing trial and error. Anything that works, it says their own. Anything that doesn't work, they attribute it to someone else.
Okay, all right. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to take a quick break, and we can carry on when we come back. Okay. Don't go away. You forgot. Yeah. Okay, my script has disappeared. So I'm trying to find it. Browser, YouTube, Wi-Fi. Let me see. Please come. Or somebody. Well, I can't find my script. It's a problem. Yeah, huh? It's okay, I found it. Found it. Yeah, this one, I want to make it my last question. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I will start with him, actually.